I see the opportunity, obviously, and what we could do and the impacts that we could make in this whole content marketing space. And then what it really allows people to do is spend more time like promoting that content, right? And distributing it and actually doing something that's meaningful to like drive traffic and awareness versus like spending so much time and the expense of like creating that content up front. And so, we're just helping kind of shift where that time is spent in the content marketing game.
Hey everyone, this is Mark DeGrasse, the President of Digital Marketer, and this is the podcast that keeps you updated on everything you need to know when it comes to digital marketing, from the platforms you focus on to the cutting-edge tactics and tools that are working today. Today, our guest is Justin McGill, the founder of Content at Scale, and we're talking SaaS development and just how crazy the AI industry is. So welcome, Justin.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right. So I know you guys just came out with a huge update, Content Scale 2.0, I think you're calling it. What does that mean? And how did you get to this point? Because this is a huge development.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah, it's crazy timing. It just so happened, was not planned to do that today before we recorded, but we started this rollout yesterday. My team lead on the development side put in a full 24-hour shift straight. He took like one 20-minute break in there. So it's been a little hectic the last couple of days, but no, it's been well worth it. It's being well received. I mean, the updates. I mean, so just for context, like the platform basically allows you to historically just put in a keyword that you wanted to rank for and put together an article, right? Pretty straightforward. Whereas now, like you can put in a YouTube video URL, a podcast episode link, a custom file if you wanted to. Even like maybe you have competitors or something, right, that have a great blog. You could take those URLs and then get a whole fresh new article, right? Like it's not a summary, it's not a transcription, it's not a rewrite. I mean, it's like a whole fresh new article. And the quality is just crazy right now. I mean, we've got links to credible sources. So like a lot of times with AI content, right, there's hallucinations as they call it. And so that's cut back dramatically. We're looking at the top ranking content and then using natural language processing to identify relevant keywords. And that's included within the content, now, right? And so all just super cutting edge stuff. I mean, you're talking about a publish ready article, right out of the box now, which is pretty crazy.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think, what Julia has shown us during multiple presentations now is that you can literally take any topic and just if you're, listening right now and you're thinking like, oh, yeah, I could generate an article using ChatGPT. Yes, you can, but it's not a good article most of the time. It's a really basic article that if you're an editor, you're going to have to, tear apart, rewrite, check the sources for the content because sometimes it just makes up quotations and statistics and doesn't have the sources. Now other platforms like I know Bing's chat function, like, well, here's the 3 sources, but it's not an article. And so I think people need to understand the difference between just writing an article using ChatGPT and what you guys, which is really a specialty platform that writes long form written content, like professional grade content. I think is that the best is kind of how you guys describe it?
Totally. And with this update in particular, I mean, like it's literally any I mean, whether they're, we always like would push people down like the informational type keyword, as historically that's what the platform did best. Whereas now it just doesn't matter. I mean, it can be transactional, it could be recipes, it could be, whatever keyword you wanted to put in, it's just there. And then the links too, it's not like just, source, right? It's like actually using anchor text and it's relevant. And then we're checking to make sure that the link's not dead and, stuff like that. So pretty crazy little process there for sure.
That's huge. Well, and I think the features you guys are adding are crazy too. So, just in terms of this subject of this episode, I've always been super interested in the SaaS development process because right now you see a million AI companies that are popping up and they basically take the OpenAI API and just like, oh, here you go, I'll throw together whatever service and charge $20 a month for it. I think that's the, opportunistic type person where you guys have actually done 2 years of development. Your existing product functions, you know, it actually does what you say it's going to do really well. And now, how did you actually get to the point where you're actually doing a 2.0 where you've made these enormous upgrades? Did you listen to the audience, or like your existing customers, or what was kind of your development cycle to come out with what you guys just did?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, when a lot of these tools, I mean, I saw something where it was like over 1,000 AI tools launched last month, right? Just in March. Like it's just crazy. There's 100 of them every day, it seems like. And a lot of them, obviously, they're a simple API call to like OpenAI or something, right? So, which is fine, right? And I think it works great for like more general purpose type tools. So like Jasper and things of that nature, where if you want ideas or things like that. When we launched, we were like the first to just focus on long form SEO content. And so I kind of felt like that was probably what the primary use case of Jasper would be for at least a lot of people, enough for me to worry about, right? And so that was kind of the focus, is just being, you know, on long form SEO content. I have a background. So 2008, I owned an agency that focused on SEO and content marketing. And I mean, we were doing content spinners and everything else to try and scale it, right? And it's like, this is like the perfect version of all of that. I mean, it's like the dream type tool for what I had with an agency. And then fast forward, I launched my first SaaS company in 2014 called LeafViews, and it was an outbound sales tool, but it like relies 100% on inbound. And so I felt like even if no one else saw the value in this, like I would be able to use it, right? So it was worth it just from that perspective. We tried to launch, we were like the first to openly talk about our like a content service being delivered through AI. That was like in December 2021. And other people were using it. I'm not saying we were the first to use AI to deliver content, but no one else said it that they did, right? They were trying to hide that fact. We were pretty vocal about it. And then I went and sold like 30,000 in revenue in like the first 3 weeks, and then realized the AI was nowhere near ready to handle it. And that was a nightmare. And we had to like pause subscriptions for months and everything else and go back to the drawing board by and large. And so that was a trying time. But, you know, fast forward in another like 6 months from that point, and things had progressed to a point where I just felt comfortable launching. So that was in September. And I mean, literally within that first month, we were at 50K MRR. Wow. And I mean, just rolling, you know, like it was moving. And then just from there through feedback, I would look at every cancellation, you know, we had a form that captured all that feedback, right? I'm looking at that. And then we just started to put together, you know, everything we needed to, you know, take this to the next level. And so, you know, we rebuilt it, which is kind of crazy, but there was a lot of stuff in there over, you know, 15 months plus of development that was no longer even relevant. And so we just went back to the drawing board and really just rebuilt it this whole quarter. Or this past quarter, I should say, now that we're into quarter two. And, you know, that was a little concerning because it took us a while to like release new things, right? I mean, we started this in January and kind of went 3 months without any real new features or anything, minor things here and there, but we were working on this whole massive update that just came out. And so, yeah, it's been a little hectic, but that's the whole like kind of arc cycle there, if you will.
That's fantastic. Well, and the fact that you've been able to make that many changes in 3 months, and, you know, I do like that you didn't drip it out, because sometimes you'll get an app and you'll be like, I like this app, but it's sort of crap, but it's still useful enough where I'll keep using it. But if actually the drip of features will turn you off to it too, because you're like, oh, great, you changed that. Like, yeah, that's the thing you changed, and you didn't fix all this other crap. So no, I do like the approach of kind of, you know, stacking those updates into one big update, which I acknowledge when you said 2.0, you didn't say 1.1, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was just too big of an update to label it anything. But, you know, it's interesting. I had to prepare the team. So like when I launched the first version, I mean, I literally just had a clip art logo. I didn't know what was going to happen, right? And I'm like, I'll just throw this logo up and then we'll just figure it out. We can always
fix it,
you know, brand it or change it later, right? But so when we rolled out like the new kind of branding, this was kind of Julia's project about a month or so ago, and I was like telling everyone, I'm like, listen, like people just hate change, right? So we're going to get blasted for it, and people are going to be upset or whatever. and no one was. And then I was like, wow, I guess our logo is really bad. Like no one even complained that we changed it, right? And so then even with this update, I'm like, guys, listen, this is a big change. I mean, we were just using like a bootstrap theme, for our old version, right? Like our beta version. And I was like, but people don't like change. I mean, we're going to hear about it, right? Expect a lot of tickets about, well, why'd you do this? And what happened to this?
Yeah.
And I can't find this. And not one so far, right? So I'm like,
Wow.
again, I'm like, man, this must have been really bad. But
No,
it's
no, but I think maybe you have the modern development cycle where it's not like, hey, we're going to tell you what's good with this new update, which I think is what companies historically have done, where it's like Google doesn't ask for any feedback. They just do stupid things all the time.
right,
Whereas you guys were
right.
like, no, we're going to listen to the feedback. We're going to give you something that's good enough right now that obviously is a beta. And then
Yeah,
we're going to come out with the actual thing, which, that wasn't even a beta, but now it's even better. And
yeah,
so
that's a great point.
I think from a
Yeah,
startup perspective, that's a great way to do it, because nothing's worse than going into a brand that looks polished and finding out that it's not, you
right.
know.
We did keep a beta label, and Julia's been
Mm.
fighting me on this, and so we're taking it off now. But I liked it for a number of reasons, and one was expectation setting. There's going to be UX issues or things that don't work right or whatever, and people are going to be more accepting. And then also they know they're in early, right? And it's kind of they're an early adopter type of a thing. But then also what I noticed was people are a lot more forthcoming with feedback
Mm.
too. And so they want it to be better, right? And so they're willing to share that. Um, she won ultimately. She's well, you actually served as a model here where, I mean, she's managed to move her way up to president now, and she's like, Mark's doing it, a digital marketer. And so now she's president, and so I'm letting her make that call. And so we're gonna drop the beta label now that this new version's out. But
That's
yeah, I,
fantastic, though.
I see positives for sure, but it's time, I got to graduate at some point.
Well, yeah, well, and I think it shows that you guys are developing along the path where a lot of these newbies that are coming out that have really served nobody yet and are just kind of like cashing checks, are probably going to end up going away, because there's no way they'll figure things out. I say the same thing about like Tesla and electric cars, where I'm like, oh yeah, the Tesla killer. You see that article come up like all the
Yeah,
time. You're like, they've been doing this for like a dozen
too long.
years.
Yeah,
You can't expect to catch up to them like tomorrow just because you feel like it, or you think
yeah.
you have enough money to force your way through. It's like, no, development cycles are cycles for a reason. Like, because
Well, and I was just having this conversation with somebody earlier today, in fact, and they were like, well, are you concerned that the competition is going to come and try to replicate what you're doing? I'm like, of course they are, I'm
yeah.
like, but by the time they do that, we'll have the next thing. And we've already got all that planned, right? So, and that's the beauty of obviously kind of being at this for a while. We're not just like, oh, this is we could just plug into this API and here we go. We're an AI tool now, right?
Yeah.
But we've been at it for a while, number one. And then we're really building like a world-class marketing team. I mean, so, you're obviously familiar with Julia. I mean, she's run a content agency before and had a 7-figure exit and all that, right? And same with me. I mean, I've built up an agency in the past as well. And so like we're coming at this with a lot of experience for the problem that we're trying to solve, right? Which is like that long form SEO driven content. And I think that helps us differentiate too, versus just trying to, be that more general purpose, like, hey, I need some YouTube ideas, or could use some title ideas for this presentation or something. Like, that's not us, like, so I think us just staying focused on this one problem will allow us to, continue to stay ahead for this too.
Oh, I completely agree with that, because it's I think now, since like you said, 1,000 apps last month, people are starting to get like AI burnout, where it's like,
Right.
before I was like, I was signing up for everything because I'm like, oh, I'll try it, I'll see how it goes. And now I'm kind of like, what does it do? Like, how much does it do? I can't have one solution for all these things. Now, your guys' solution, I think you've done a great job of niching, but niching in a way that's still
Big enough.
significant. Yeah, it's big
yeah.
enough where, well, and and really, you guys, your tool was so useful already. You could have just stopped. You could have just said, like, you know what? This is good enough. We're better than like everybody else out there. It's fine. But instead, you guys just added like just some massive features that are going to lead to, I don't know how much content. You're going to break the content game. I hate to interrupt our podcast, but I have an announcement about Digital Marketers content certification.
Content without a content marketing strategy is an expensive mistake, but it's one that most businesses are making. When it comes to content marketing, all content should be created with a clear purpose to move a customer or potential customer along the customer value journey. That's why you need Digital Marketer's Content Mastery certification. You'll learn how to leverage a complete content system to strategize, create, and distribute content that just plain works. When you become a certified content marketing strategist, you'll master the craft of systematically creating and promoting content that drives noticeable revenue for any business, and you'll get a badge to prove it. Learn more right now at digitalmarketer.com/content-cert.
I know. It's almost like
stuff.
it's just so easy now is the thing. And you know, the things that we're working on now and we'll be releasing in the future too is it's crazy. It is crazy. So it's like I see the opportunity obviously and what we could do and the impacts that we could make in this whole content marketing space. And then what it really allows people to do is spend more time like promoting that content, right? And distributing it and actually doing something that's meaningful to like drive traffic and awareness versus like spending so much time and the expense of like creating that content up front. And so, you know, we're just helping kind of shift where that time is spent in the content marketing game, not necessarily, you know, looking at this from a, you know, let's wipe out all these jobs or, you know, replace all these content writers and stuff. It's like, well, like A, they should be adapting to the technology, but B, like start using that time now to promote that content, right? And do additional things, you know, to build the brand and the traffic and everything else. So
oh yeah, well, even just interacting with your customers like you guys have done, because it is very easy. Because you know, we teach strategy here at Digital Marketer, where I'm like, hey, if you just have a strategy and you do things consistently, you're already going to be ahead of like 95% of your competitors. So let's just worry about that. But now we could say, hey, we're not just going to have a strategy, but we can execute all of the content instantly. And actually, a lot of the strategy, you know, strategic components, the frameworks that we teach, we can now use an AI, have people do it in 10 minutes where the same task would have taken 3 to 10 hours. You know? So
really, I mean, yeah.
Get rid of that. And now you could talk to more customers and you could do more events and you could interact with people, you know, through social a lot more than you could before, because you're not just worried about like, hey, oh, crap, we have a newsletter on Monday. Newsletter is the primary driver of our, you know, traffic on the website. So now I have to worry about that when I should be doing this. So I think that's a great way to look at it. Like, you know, it's not replacing jobs. It's just freeing up your time for stuff that requires attention. Redistributing. There you go. Redistributing your time. But no, that's a great project. And I love because I think I saw Julie's last presentation she gave when she was at, where was she? I think it was the Certified Partner Training Day, which you were at. And she just had that chart where it's like, no, you were spending your time here, you know, content creation, and now you can spend your time doing the fun stuff, ideation and measuring and optimizing and all that, you know, cool stuff that's not like sitting and researching. That's
a great point. Actually, you just brought up one of those, which is like updating your old content, right? I mean, so you could use a system like this, and eventually, whether it's us or whatever you do, right? But it's going to become table stakes because it's how you can rank for so many different keywords at volume. And then it becomes like, okay, well, what else are you doing, right? With links or whatever. But an important step in that process that I mean, everyone overlooks is going back and updating old content that, you know, used to perform that's now on page 2 or 3 because there's new articles and fresher takes on things. And so your content is dropped, but everyone's so focused on, you know, spending all that time creating the new content that they're not going back and updating old content. And I mean, that's a whole opportunity there in itself that, you know, you likely wouldn't have had time to do prior, right? But now that you don't need to spend so much time optimizing that's a great use of your time.
Well, a lot of times when people they just won't do the task, you know, I'm like that where I'm like, I know this is going to take a long time. I don't know if it's actually going to perform. Like I might just be thinking it's a good topic, but it's not.
Right.
And then now I can still do the topic, still not waste a bunch of time and still get the content out because actually creating the stuff is so easy. Like it actually makes less sense for me not to do it. Whereas before, I mean, I don't want to spend 10 hours on an article, you know, unless I know what's going to hit.
Publish 50 of them and it's like, okay, these 5 are gaining some traction, you know, and it's like, let's go back and really focus on those and add a video or add a relevant podcast or, you know what I mean? Like something like that to really help it stand out. Right. So
well, and just for the testing purposes, just that alone would be worth it, because now you could actually create the content, test the content, to your audience and then find out if it's worth it for you to spend more time on the content, create something that's even bigger, or maybe just identify a category of content that you should make because you made 5
Right.
different categories, tested it out. Oh, it looks like this is what people are interested in. And then
Start building topical authority.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're covering, a topic super in depth. Yeah, we're seeing that. I mean, our AI detector has been a huge success. And so now, like, anytime we're talking AI detection, I mean, it's just like, we're right there, page one, right? I mean, it's like no problem, because Google knows that we're an authority on that subject. And so now it's like, okay, we've got to branch off of that, right? And start talking more like AI content things and not just like detection. But yeah, we were kind of early to the AI detection game, and just got lucky there, I think, where we were the first company to like focus on undetectable AI content. We kept hearing it over. Well, what if Google detects it? Am I going to get in trouble? What happens if Google sees it? Right. And so we're like, okay, like A, it's a valid point. And this was something I was concerned about even before I launched. And then B, how do we ease people's concerns with that and overcome that objection? And so there was a script by Hugging Face out there that could, detect older versions of it was like GPT-2 at the time. And so we kind of piggyback off of that, and then started to build out layers on top of the AI that would, circumvent that basically and become undetectable. And so then that became our differentiator for a while, actually. But, this whole space, right? I mean, you're seeing it, it's just moving so fast that it's just, even AI detection is like less of a concern now. It's like crazy. Then Google's come out saying that it's okay, right? Like now
that's
I
not
don't think they're
okay.
just,
That's okay again.
yeah, exactly. I don't think they're just going to reward you #1 rankings necessarily, but they're also not going to punish you, right? So
Yeah.
I think a lot of times now it's just being used because you have companies like, and I'm talking about the detector. You've got companies that are paying writers, right? Like for actual human written words, because they think whatever, right?
Makes
They
a
value that
difference.
more. And so now they're, well, this full priced article I just paid for, is this actually AI or not, right? And so I think there's just more people. It's almost like for people that haven't quite wrapped their minds around it yet,
No, it makes sense. All right. So as we talked, you mentioned SEO a little bit. I'm going to ask this question because my concern about SEO, because we're actually building out a new SEO cert, and I'm like, oh crap, I don't know what's going to happen here. Because my main concern is that companies like Google will find that doing generative content is more profitable than doing search, where it's like, wow, why should we send traffic anywhere? Because we could just generate articles ourselves based on the user preferences, because Google has probably more information about you than your doctor. So what's your theory there? Do you think that search is going to fundamentally change, or maybe become less important than it has been in the past, or could it potentially be replaced by generative solutions fed to us by large companies?
Yeah, I think, and it's a valid concern. I think ultimately, if Google doesn't start to credit the sources like you're seeing with Bing, I think over time, you're going to start seeing people not be so willing to feed their beast, right? And so if they don't have fresh content being delivered to them, I mean, that exposes them and is a huge potential risk. I would be shocked if Google does not do more to surface the source content and allow you to go deeper. I think it would be a huge misstep if they didn't do that to the public. There's no reason for a publisher to grant Google access then, right? If they're not going to see any benefit from it. And so I think, and over time, immediately that won't be a big deal, but fast forward 3 or 4 years when all their data is outdated, right? Like, and that's the problem too with ChatGPT right now, right? I mean, the model's updated to September of 2021. So if you're going to ChatGPT, anything after that, like, you're not really going to get up-to-date information. And so for some things that's fine, but like, if Google hasn't been fed information for 4 years, that data is not going to be nearly as relevant, right? So I think that's a potential risk that they would have if they didn't attribute things to sources. But we'll see where it goes. Do I anticipate that their search engine just shutting off and going a totally different route? I don't see that. Definitely not anytime in the immediate future, but you know, I just think there's too much risk there if they did that
No,
long
I
term.
think, well, maybe we're in just like this golden era where we could generate as much content as we want using AI and not have it have the same effect that it would have, you know, a year ago or 2 years ago relative to, you know, search engine traffic. So yeah, people, you know, jump on board. Oh, like I was telling Julia, I'm like, well, and if I was back in my magazine making days, like I could create an entire magazine from scratch with using 0 writers and only
Right.
myself and completely simplify the whole process.
Right.
And it'd probably be better too. And this
Yeah.
is, and
It's
actually, you know,
consistent, and it's all, you know,
consistent.
like
Yeah.
you're not going to miss a deadline. You're not, you know what I mean? Like it's just
Well, not
the
only that,
process
but
of managing that is
yeah, trying to deal with writers and trying to deal
right.
with the egos of writers and then corrections and then modifications based on the whatever preferences of who's contributing the content and
And the
updating page.
inconsistencies from one writer to the next. And yeah,
No, it's
well,
enormous. I
that's
think.
the other thing too, is like, if you're doing this as a service, the expertise that you need for these different industries, right? And like now you got to go find a writer that really knows fashion or really knows health or whatever. And it's like, you know, if you're using
Oh, yeah.
AI, I mean, they know everything, right? So it's like just so much more convenient.
Well, and I think a lot of industries that are historically complex, as you know, AI continues to get better, you know, you'll have a lot more content creators because I can't create content for, I don't know, engineering CAD projects that blah 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 that are designed for aerospace application, blah blah. I'm like,
Right.
no, those guys, I can't write a piece for an engineer audience and expect not to get torn apart. And so then you
Right.
end up with the same 5 people probably writing everybody's content because they
Right.
understand it. And you don't have that anymore. So I really think,
Yep.
because everybody's always worried about like, well, humans aren't even necessary anymore. It's like, we're the ones consuming the content. Like,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
that's why it's being made. So
Right.
I think we'll be fine. But no, it's good to hear that you think that's going to take 3-4 years for any kind of like real effect to happen, you know, in
And I
terms of.
think they would just be making a major mistake, in my opinion. I think Bing's doing a great job the way they're doing this. You know, they picked a battle that they just might be able to win, at least for a little bit,
They
which is
didn't have a
pretty
chance
cool.
before.
Big comeback story. But you know, they have the sources and everything. And you know, it's interesting. I got into this discussion with someone before where I kind of like the like keyword driven domain all of a sudden now too, right? Because that's sometimes the only thing you see is just, you know, the domain. And so if you're, obviously everyone knows Nike, but if you didn't know Nike and you're looking up running shoes and you just see Nike.com,
yeah.
like, you know, you don't know what that is, right? So you see digital marketer on there, right? Or content at scale or whatever, you have a really good idea of what that domain is about before you even click through. So it's funny, like we talked about, you know, do we just stick with this name? I mean, you know, it wasn't a whole lot that went into it, you know. It was just like, it explains what we do and it's .ai, so let's roll with it, you know. But I'm seeing kind of how this attribution is happening, and it's like, you know, that's not a bad idea to have a keyword rich domain again, you know, like,
Yeah.
For reasons other than trying to game the system, right? Which was what it was before, but now it's actually to indicate to a person searching that, you know, this is probably relevant to what you're looking for. So,
Oh yeah. Well, and just from a content strategy as a whole, like I think you guys are really nailing it, because I always tell people when I teach content, I'm like, hey, if you're not answering every question your customer has, then they're getting the answer from somebody else, most likely your
right.
competitors. So you literally have to answer every question because 1, your answer is going to be different than anybody else's, and 2, you don't want to send traffic other places. But
Right.
the whole caveat with that is nobody has enough time to create all the content you would actually have to create until now.
Right.
So
I'm gonna have to. I'll save that one. That's a good one, man. I like that.
well, I was
they're gonna look for that answer somewhere.
They're gonna find it too.
You
know, and so that's why everybody's because I always used to make content. They're like, well, we don't need to answer the basic question because there's 1,000 articles on that. I'm like, it doesn't matter. They're not your articles. So you trust Joe, your competitor down the street, to give an answer to your customer. 1, you're not even going to agree with it. You're going to think he's wrong. And 2, other people are answering that question and they're way less qualified than you. So you're being irresponsible by not answering that question. So how do you feel about it now?
Right. Sign up here.
Sign up
Yeah.
here. But you don't have time. So you use Content at Scale. They'll do all the actual hard work for you. And you just need to
Right.
worry about the topic and how you show people the information. And there you go. Now
Yeah.
you could. And if you really feel bad about it, then if you have an article that hits, go ahead and rewrite it from scratch
Right.
yourself.
Yeah. Don't
Nobody's
waste your
gonna do
time
that.
hoping it does, you know?
Well, you know, people feel good. You know, it's really just a fear of missing out, right? It's FOMO that I'm going to waste all this time making an article that nobody's going to read, so I'm just not going to do it in the first place.
Right.
But you guys take that away, and now there's no excuse for people not to make content. So, I think what you guys are doing is awesome, and I think your development, you know, cycle, bringing on Julia, I mean, that was a stroke of genius too. So I think you guys are.
You know, she found us through a video by Adam Monfroy, who's a partner of ours, and he's like one of the largest affiliate marketers in the world, you know. And so she saw us featured in a video that he put together and was like, I gotta check this out, you know. And so she signed up to be an affiliate and sent me an email saying, well, how are you going to handle like factual accuracy? You know, she's like, I've been talking to all these AI tools and it's all a problem and no one seems to really care about it. And so I responded that, you know, we're actually working on this and we're going to roll it out this spring, where we're going to be linking to the sources and build that right into the content with the right anchor text and everything else. And literally, it's funny because I was looking at my inbox and so this was on a Friday. By that Monday morning, I looked her email or her name up in my email, and it was over 50 emails. So like we'd already gone to like page 2 in my inbox, right? And so we had a lot of correspondence. And then Monday we talked, and it was like, let's do this, you know. So it was the fastest hire I think I've ever made.
Wow.
She was promoted twice and is already president of the company. So it's been a wild.
Where'd she go next from here?
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy story there for sure. But you know, listen, I mean, I had yet to ever meet somebody that could outwork me, and she does. I mean, yeah, I'm not afraid to say it. I mean, she is a machine, and it just blew me away. Like the volume of her output is just insane. And so, listen, I was like, well, I mean, we can't lose her, right? So. You know, she came up with this idea of becoming president, and like I said, she used you as an example. So I looked that up and was checking out what, you know, how Ryan Dice and what he was doing. I'm like, okay, yeah, this will work. I like it. Let's do it. So
well, like I said, I think you guys are doing a great job. I think your development cycle is awesome. I think the fact that you're still pushing features and, you know, developing the product, even though it's already a really good product, is super impressive as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do.
Thanks, Mark.
So when's the next update?
Yeah, exactly. We do have some really cool stuff coming, you know, with like a Shopify plugin and right now, like we support a bunch of languages, but it's through translation, which admittedly kind of sucks. You know, like it doesn't, you know, like in Europe, right? It's a flat. Here it's an apartment, and you know, and like, so it's just stuff like that. But here shortly, we're going to be actually like writing in like that native language to begin with, and we'll be researching the sites in their native languages, right? Their local search queries and everything else that, you know, we'll search Google. So it's going to be awesome. So those are some things that we're rolling out. But one thing I've learned is to never give the exact date. Unfortunately, it just doesn't happen like that. In fact, this update that we rolled out today, as of last Friday, I was like, it's coming on Monday, and that didn't even happen. So yeah, it's who knows, but it's coming. It's on the horizon, as I like to say. So
that's awesome.
It's coming next.
Well, like I said, the fact that you've been able to implement that much since January, I mean, is incredible. And we've seen the demo several times, and the product itself is just incredible. So I'm excited to get back on today and check out all these new features. So thank you for making this happen.
I'd love to hear your feedback once you see it. It's crazy.
Awesome. So how can people find out more about you and Content Scale?
Yeah, so you can hit me up, Justin, at contentscale.ai. You can go to the website, contentscale.ai. We do a lot on social. I mean, Julia's all over the place. We've got an awesome video person. I mean, we're just pumping out video content left and right as well on YouTube. So I don't think you can miss us, unfortunately.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Justin. Like I said, I think you guys are doing very impressive things, and you're a testament to the whole AI development industry. Because I see quite a few, and you guys have done a great job.
Killer, man. I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to hit that follow button so you get notified when all of our new episodes release. Please share this with that friend who's clueless about digital marketing. And don't forget to visit digitalmarketer.com, where you can access all of our courses, certifications, and training programs. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next time.